Vivian called again. Olivia's hand trembled on the phone, her heart racing. Damian's voice was calm, far too calm. She just wanted to confirm tomorrow's meeting. But Olivia knew. Vivian's voice was never about business. Never. Sydney, Australia, 1980. Olivia glanced once more at the clock on the table. Only a minute had passed since the last time, yet each tick meant one less chance to make Damian change his mind about the night before. Frustration and resentment dragged her back into memories. At the beginning of their marriage, Damian would call to say he'd be late at the office. Now, she only realized when he finally walked to the door, far too late. An hour, maybe two. It no longer made a difference. He knew she would be waiting. After all, Olivia was his wife. Tears slid down her cheeks. What had gone wrong? The questions circled endlessly in her mind. This is foolish, she told herself, forcing a bitter smile. The truth was clear. Their marriage had been wrong from start. Her love for Damian had blinded her. She had been young, passionate, and naive, but not anymore. Pain had taught her to see. She wiped her tears and filed her nails. Then she reached for the red polish, bright red, like blood. That was how she felt inside, torn apart, burning, like her marriage, which seemed ready to collapse that very night. She knew why Damian had married her, not for love but for possession. He had been captivated by her innocence, rare for a 21-year-old raised by a strict grandmother who clung to old-fashioned values. The same grandmother who had kept suitors away and imposed rigid rules. Unlike the idle boys she had known, Damian had conquered her with attention, persistence, and charm. From the very first moment, he desired her, and once he had her, he decided she would belong to him entirely. Her grandmother insisted on a 2-month engagement, enough time to prepare the wedding. Those, without Olivia realizing, were the only months Damian ever opened his heart, sharing dreams, listening to hers. After the vows, everything changed. He gave her a magnificent house in Potts Point, overlooking Sydney Harbor. 5 bedrooms, elegant rooms, manicured gardens, and a sparkling pool. Olivia had full freedom to decorate, choosing curtains, colors, and furniture. She thought she was building a home. But in truth, it was only a distraction. Damian let her spin and dream because it kept her busy, happily waiting for him. There had been months of happiness, quiet nights, evenings when he wanted her all to himself. Olivia mistook that attention for love. She didn't suspect that, in his business meetings, Damian was never alone. Vivian Sandstrom was always there, the woman who held his heart without Olivia ever knowing. As time passed, the distance between them grew. Their conversations faded. Arguments began, at first over trivial things. But soon Olivia's frustration gave weight to every fight. To Damian, the solution was always the same, the bedroom. He believed tenderness and intimacy could fix everything. But for Olivia, it was not enough. Last night proved it. Vivian had called, her voice sweet and suggestive, asking to speak with Damian. Olivia had hung up abruptly. They fought, and later, he tried to erase it all with kisses and promises. But she no longer wanted to forget. At least, she thought, Vivian wouldn't have him that night. Or would she? Deep down, Olivia knew. If Damian could not see that marriage required sharing, respect, and dialogue, then it was already over. She wanted children, a future. She wanted to be more than a beautiful ornament at his side. She loved him desperately. She desired him completely. But it wasn't enough. The sound of a car engine made her shiver. Damian. Her heart raced. What would come now? Another night of silence with him locked away in the library? Or another attempt to solve everything with a touch, without words? Determined, Olivia tightened the robe around her body, the same body he had so often claimed. She brushed on another coat of red polish and drew in a deep breath. All right, Damian, she thought. I'll give you what you want. But after, I need to know if there is anything beyond this desire you impose on me. Olivia knew the very moment Damian stopped at the bedroom door. She could feel his stare cutting through the wood, and the awareness alone made her uneasy. When the door finally opened, she braced herself. If he insisted on going to that so-called business meeting tonight, he was in for a surprise. Red nail polish? He asked, his voice dripping with sensuality that sent a shiver down her spine. Olivia didn't answer right away. She simply looked at him, controlling herself. He crossed the room, poured himself a whiskey, and gestured for her to join him. No, thank you, she declined coolly. You could have at least said hello. Damian smiled that smile, the one that had always fascinated her, perfect teeth flashing, eyes sharp like a hunter watching his prey. Olivia knew exactly what he saw, the silk robe that revealed more than it concealed. She didn't have many weapons against him, but this one she still owned. Damian dropped his jacket and tie carelessly aside and began to move toward her, slowly. Her heart raced in spite of herself. There was no denying it. He was a striking man, tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that made his piercing blue eyes stand out even more. From the moment she had first seen him, Olivia had fallen helplessly, hopelessly in love. And she still loved him. She still desired him. But that desire was now laced with pain. He leaned down, brushing his strong fingers against her shoulder. Olivia exhaled, trying to steady her nerves. New perfume, he murmured, breathing her in at her neck. It's imported, she replied, forcing a faint smile. He ignored the edge in her voice. In the mirror, they looked like the perfect couple. But Olivia knew better. Behind that image, distance was widening every day. Damian's lips traced the curve of her neck, sending a chill racing through her body. She felt it, yes, but she refused to surrender so easily. She would not be just a body, he claimed out of convenience. This time, the game had to change. Olivia let her head rest briefly against his chest. Just for a moment, she felt him tremble. A small victory. Proof that perhaps he could still be touched somewhere deeper. His eyes locked with hers, and for a fleeting second she dared believe there was hope. But then, as always, he pulled her tighter, too eager, too fast. Olivia recognized it instantly. With Damian, closeness always had one destination. Not like this, Damian, she whispered, trying to slow his urgency. He stared back at her, frustrated, forcing himself to breathe. You did this on purpose. His voice was rough, accusing. Maybe, she admitted softly. Then you know it's impossible to stop now. I only know one thing, she said firmly. I am not your prisoner. He let out a short laugh, but tension flared in his eyes, always defiant. And tell me, Damian, she asked in a near whisper, am I truly your love, or just your possession? He looked away, as if the answer was obvious, but the word she longed to hear never came. In that silence, Olivia understood, being his wife, his companion, was never enough. What he really wanted was control. When she tried to move away, his grip tightened, pulling her back into his arms. Olivia shut her eyes, caught once again. I will not let you live only for work, she thought bitterly, and for her, the woman who takes what should be mine. But even as she longed for a confession of love, she knew the truth. All he offered was a hollow illusion, intensity in the moment followed by silence. Moments later, Damian pulled away abruptly, glancing at his watch. We're late, he said curtly. Olivia almost laughed, a laugh as bitter as it was cold. He always found a way to break the spell exactly when she needed him most. I don't want to go, she declared firmly. He turned to her impatient. And why not? She didn't need to answer. They both knew Vivian would be there. And with Vivian, Damian shared what he never shared with his own wife. Swallowing the lump in her throat, she said only, I refuse to keep playing the good little wife you demand. His lips tightened in disapproval. Sometimes, Olivia, I'm far too patient with you. Don't mistake that for weakness. You blurred those lines long ago, she replied, her voice calm, almost cruel. But don't worry. I'll stand beside you. I'll play the part of the perfect wife. He studied her for a moment, then turned toward the bathroom. The door slammed shut behind him. Olivia laughed. Not the light laughter before, but dark, bitter laugh of a woman who knew something precious was slipping away. If Damian thought she would remain only Vivian's shadow, he was wrong. Damian stepped into the shower, without waiting for the water to warm. He needed the shock of cold to burn away the tension consuming him. What was happening to him? The intensity of that moment with Olivia had shaken him more than anything before. It was as if the world had stopped and all that remained was her. And yet, he couldn't ignore his discipline, his responsibilities. As the water poured over his face, memories struck. His father, careless, dragging the family into ruin. 9 children, no planning, no security. Then an early death, leaving them all adrift. Damian had sworn never to repeat that mistake, not even with Olivia. No matter how much he wanted her, he would not surrender control. He dried himself with force, as if he could erase her imprint from his skin. But no matter how he tried, the truth clung to him. Olivia was inside him like a fever that refused to break. When he stepped out, the sharp scent of his lotion mixed with the faint perfume of Olivia's makeup. She sat before the mirror, cold eyes meeting his. She knew he had stayed longer than usual in the shower, as if he were washing away what had just happened between them. Business. Vivian. Always first, she thought bitterly. She rose calmly, choosing her dress. Black, fitted, elegant, cut low in the back. She had been saving it for a special night. And tonight, she decided would be that night. Damian watched in silence. For a fleeting second, he seemed about to close the distance, to take her in his arms. But instead, he fixed his tie, his white shirt a mirror of his restraint. "Do you like my dress?" Olivia asked with a hint of irony. "No." The word cut like a blade. She held her composure. "What's wrong? Isn't this exactly what you wanted? Every man in that room will stare at you." His voice was taut with irritation. "That should flatter you, shouldn't it? After all, I'm your wife." His blue eyes darkened. "Stop it, Olivia. What happens between us belongs only to us." She stepped closer, daring him. "Then that's what they'll see tonight, Damian. And everyone will know exactly why you chose me." His breathing grew heavy, his control slipping. "Change your dress," he ordered. Olivia met his eyes with disdain, then turned to slip on her shoes, ignoring him. "You've given me everything I never asked for," she said evenly, "but never what I needed." The words hit him like a strike to the chest. "That's not true," he murmured. "I just wanted to wait." Always waiting, Damian. Always delaying. Never sharing anything with me. Not your work, not your thoughts, not your dreams. Only what you demand. He raked his hands over his face, exasperated. "You're everything to me, Olivia. Don't you see? If I were everything, we wouldn't go into a party just to feed Vivian Sandstrom's vanity." The silence between them grew heavy, suffocating. At last, Damian steadied himself and touched her shoulders. "It's you I want. It's you I love. Now, please, wear another dress." Olivia lifted her chin, meeting his gaze without fear. "If I belong to you, Damian, then you shouldn't fear anyone's eyes. If you love me, accept me as I am, because I won't live as the shadow of the life you've chosen." His eyes closed, her words cutting deeper than he cared to admit. "Why are you doing this, Olivia?" he whispered. She hesitated, then spoke the truth. "Because I can't keep living like I'm just your possession. I want more, Damian. I want a real life." He froze. And in that moment, Olivia knew they had crossed a line. She opened the door, her final word to challenge. "You can drive me or find me there. Either way, I'll be at that party." It was a warning, and the night ahead would not end like the others. Olivia and Damian didn't exchange a single word on the drive into the city. The tension between them was almost tangible. She searched for some excuse for his silence, but deep down she knew. At least she had shaken him. His grip on the wheel was tight, his eyes locked on the traffic ahead. "All I ever wanted was to share life with you, Damian," she thought. "A child, a future. Is that really too much to ask?" "Why is this party so important?" she finally asked. "What do you mean by that, Olivia?" His reply was sharp, cold, killing any courage she had to press further. Damian wasn't a man without a heart. For his family, he was pure generosity. He had given his mother and siblings everything they ever wanted, except his time, his attention, his heart. Olivia knew where that implacable streak came from. He had grown up in hardship, forced from a young age to support his Italian mother, Sophia Carlton, and 8 younger siblings. At just 18, he'd stepped into the role of head of the family after his father's death, saving them from losing their land. He bargained, he fought. He built himself into one of Sydney's most powerful real estate magnates. To Sophia, he was perfection itself, the son who had carried them all, the man who had brought security, respect, and pride. But to Olivia, he was a mystery. Why could this same man love and provide for so many, yet refuse her the one thing she longed for? Why did his eyes always turn cold when she spoke of children? An only child, orphaned since birth, raised by her strict grandmother, Olivia had always dreamed of a bustling home filled with laughter and voices. And now, married, she found only resistance. Damian wanted her to himself. Just her. No child to share his affection. No life beyond the one he controlled. And then there was a shadow that never left them, Vivian Sandstrom. Secretary. Confidant. Constant presence. He'll have to choose tonight, Olivia resolved silently. Between her and me. There's no room for both. The car pulled up to the glowing entrance of the Sheraton Wentworth, where the benefit ball was in full swing. Damian's face betrayed nothing, though Olivia caught the faint tremor in his hand on the wheel. Stepping out, she lifted her chin, fully aware of the eyes upon them. Together, they cut an imposing figure. Damian tall, elegant, commanding. Olivia, radiant in her daring black gown. For a fleeting moment, she felt powerful. But Damian's arm clamped firmly around her waist, a possessive grip, a silent warning to every man who dared admire her. From this moment on, he murmured coldly, forget our problems. You will act like the perfect, loving wife. If you don't, I'll never forgive you. Olivia swallowed her rage and nodded. For Damian, for fear of losing him, she would play the part. That was when Vivian appeared, elegant in midnight blue, her jewels glittering, every movement exuding confidence. Her gray eyes settled on Olivia with calculated courtesy, but beneath it was nothing but disdain. Good evening, Olivia, she said, her flawless smile hiding the contempt. Good evening, Vivian, Olivia replied smoothly, looping her arm tighter through Damian's. Forgive us for arriving late. We had things to settle at home. Isn't that right, darling? Yes. Damian forced a smile, before turning his full attention back to his secretary. At once, the conversation shifted to business. Vivian spoke with passion, reeling off strategies and competitors' names, sharing a world Damian never offered his wife. Olivia listened on the sidelines, her bitterness deepening. Then they were introduced to Jan Jorgensen, the foreign investor. Olivia immediately noticed his eyes lingering on her, curious, intrigued. And in a move that caught her off guard, Damian said quietly, Olivia loves to dance. Before she could protest, Jan extended his hand. Surprised, Olivia had no choice but to accept. As he led her across the dance floor, spinning her beneath the chandeliers, she could feel the weight of Damian's stare burning into her and the triumphant glint in Vivian's eyes. In that moment, Olivia understood. Any misstep, any slip would be used against her. And yet, she lifted her chin and smiled. If this was a game, she refused to lose. When Olivia reached the bathroom, she locked herself inside the first stall and took a deep breath. Her body was trembling, and her heart felt unbearably heavy. She felt defeated. She loved Damian too much to keep hurting him, but she no longer had the strength to fight against that wall of silence. Maybe the best thing would be to let him go, let him live his life with Vivian. She sat there for a long while, memories of their marriage flashing through her mind. For a moment, she even thought about leaving him altogether. But where would she go? That house no longer felt like a home, just a beautiful, empty shell. For a fleeting second, she imagined taking a taxi straight to her grandmother's. But the thought of arriving there in the middle of the night, wearing a plunging black gown, made her wince. Her grandmother's disapproval would be swift and merciless. And yet, at least there, someone would listen. Someone would care. Yes, Olivia decided. Tomorrow I'll go. Tomorrow I'll pack my things. She stood, touched up her makeup, and tried to restore her composure. When she finally pushed open a glass door to return to the ballroom, a hand touched her shoulder. Startled, she turned and was surprised. It was Harry Graham. The tension in her chest eased for a moment. Harry had been her boss back when she worked on that talk show before she married Damian. Always kind, always smiling, with warm hazel eyes and messy brown hair that fell over his forehead. Harry carried a natural charm that was impossible to ignore. "Olivia," he exclaimed with genuine delight. "What luck running into you here. I bet there isn't a single man in this ballroom who doesn't envy your husband tonight." She tried to smile back, faintly. Harry, of course, knew her story. He had been there on the show where she and Damian first met. But now, seeing her again, he noticed something different, a shadow in her eyes. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. "More or less," she replied, unwilling to go deeper. Then she remembered. Harry had gone through a divorce not long ago. "I'm sorry about Helen," she said softly. He shrugged. "That's life. Maybe I wasn't the man she really deserved." Olivia knew the gossip columns by heart. Helen had fallen for a younger man, and the marriage had collapsed. Looking at Harry now, humble, calm, she felt a pang of empathy. Both of them, she realized, had suffered in love. Harry studied her for a moment, then said quietly, "I always thought you were old-fashioned. Olivia, dreaming of a house full of children. Wasn't that why you left the job?" She swallowed hard. "Not exactly. Damian preferred me at home." Harry raised a brow, thoughtful. "And does that keep you happy?" he asked, almost in a whisper. Before she could answer, he leaned closer and teased. "Don't look now, but your husband is walking this way. And judging by his face, I might not survive the next 5 minutes. Do you want me to vanish, or stay and play the knight in shining armor?" Olivia's heart raced. Damian was cutting through the crowd toward them, his eyes blazing. Harry winked at her with a grin. "Then smile. That way we'll look like two innocent old friends." "Graham?" Damian's cold voice cut in as he arrived. Olivia recognized that restrained smile of his, the one that carried more menace than calm. But Harry didn't flinch. "Ah, Damian, Olivia was just telling me about your life together. If she ever wants to return to work, my door will always be open to her." "How generous of you," Damian replied, his tone icy. "But my wife has no need of that." Harry turned back to Olivia, ignoring the hostility. "Remember, if you ever need a safe harbor, I'll be there. Only a fool would fail to cherish a rare jewel." He bowed lightly, then walked away. Olivia stood frozen, the air thick with tension. Damian's eyes burned into her, each word Harry had spoken cutting like a blade. She forced herself to breathe. It was time to face the inevitable. "Do you need something from me, Damian?" she asked, trying to sound indifferent. "You took too long," he said flatly. "I was only following your advice, remember?" She shot back bitterly. "You told me to enjoy myself." His lips tightened. "Too bad you waited until it was too late." Olivia lifted her chin. "Then forgive me for the dress, for Mr. Jorgensen." "Mister?" Damian cut her off with a sneer. "I imagine you two became rather close on the dance floor." Her face flushed crimson. "I don't feel well," she murmured. "I'd rather go home." He raised a brow. "Had enough excitement for one night." She looked away without answering. With a sigh, Damian gripped her arm and pulled her firmly toward the elevator. The silence between them was heavier than any argument. Olivia knew they were nearing a dangerous edge, the point where love and hurt blurred into something darker. At the lobby, he hailed a taxi and opened the door for her. Olivia hesitated, her heart pounding. "Aren't you going to kiss me good night, Damian?" she asked softly. Surprised, he leaned in, brushing her lips with his brief, cold, distant. Her chest tightened, but she slid into the car. Through the window, she saw Damian already turning back toward the hotel. Back to Vivian. "Where to, ma'am?" asked the driver. Olivia drew a shaky breath. "A good question indeed. Take me to the Sebeltown Hotel, please." As the car pulled away, she looked one last time at the glowing Sheridan lights. Her marriage might already be over, yet inside her the flame of love and pain still burned. Olivia barely slept that night. For the first time since the wedding, she spent the long hours alone without Damian beside her. I need to get used to this, she repeated to herself. But the memories of the previous evening were far too vivid to let her rest. She ordered breakfast in her room, more to keep busy than out of hunger. Each sip of coffee tasted bitter. She glanced at the clock. 8:05. By now, Damian would already be on his way to the office. Still in her evening dress, she felt ridiculous. With no comb at hand, she used her fingers to tame her long hair. Vivian, she thought bitterly, would never be caught like this. Vivian was always immaculate, always flawless. With a sigh, she went down to reception, settled her bill, and called a cab back to Potts Point. As the car wound through the streets of Sydney, an emptiness spread through her chest. That cold farewell kiss from Damian still burned inside her. When she arrived at the mansion, the garage door was shut and Damian's car was gone. Relief. She unlocked the door with her own keys and stepped inside, determined to pack her things and leave. But just as she set foot on the staircase, a voice stopped her. "So, you finally decided to come home." Her heart froze. Slowly, she turned. Damian was leaning against the dining room doorway, shirt unbuttoned, sleeves rolled up, stubble shadowing his face. His dark, sleepless eyes told her he hadn't closed them all night. "Nothing to say, Olivia?" No explanation at all. His tone cut like steel. She gripped the banister to steady herself. "I thought you'd gone to work," she whispered. "I've been here for over 9 hours, waiting for you." He shot back, his gaze burning. "Where did you spend the night?" "Don't be unfair." Olivia protested. "You know perfectly well I wasn't with anyone." He stepped closer, every movement heavy with anger and hurt. "Then why didn't you come back? Do you have any idea what I imagined? Olivia, what went through my head all night?" "Enough!" she cried, desperate. There was no other man. But he wasn't listening. Jealousy had consumed him. His hand rose to her face, trembling fingers brushing her skin, torn between belief and punishment. "You played with fire," he muttered. "Damian, all I ever wanted was for you to trust me," she pleaded. In a rush of raw emotion, he pulled her into his arms. The storm between them erupted in a desperate union. Anger and desire tangled in one overwhelming clash. Olivia didn't resist, not because she accepted his suspicion, but because, for one fleeting moment, he was hers alone, not Vivian's, not the world's, just hers. And then, silence. Damian pulled back, chest heaving. His hands pressed his head, as though he despised himself for what had just happened. Olivia had never seen him so vulnerable. Sitting on the edge of the bed, he whispered hoarsely, "Did I hurt you?" "You hurt my heart," she thought, but she only answered softly, "No." He exhaled deeply. "Olivia, I confess I doubted you, but there was no one else," she replied, steady and firm. He sat in silence for what felt like an eternity. At last, he muttered only, "I'm sorry." Then he rose and walked to the bathroom, heavy steps echoing. Moments later, the sound of running water filled the room. Olivia knew what it meant. He was armoring himself again, washing away guilt, covering it with the same cold facade. Lying back, silent tears slipped down her face. Tears that would change nothing. Later, after Damian left for the office, Olivia made her choice. She packed her belongings, only her personal things, nothing he had given her. Then, with trembling hands, she left a short note on his pillow. "Dear Damian, I can't live like this anymore. I'm going to my grandmother's. I don't want anything from you, not money, not favors. I can stand on my own. I wish you happiness. Thank you for everything, but I cannot stay. Olivia." She walked through the house one last time, running her hands over furniture, remembering the hope of which she had chosen every piece. Then she called a taxi. At the door, she did not look back. It was only a house now. The home had been lost long before that morning. And at just 23 years old, Olivia knew she had an entire lifetime to begin again. The taxi pulled up in front of Olivia's grandmother's house, in the quiet suburb of Artarmon. The driver set her bags by the gate while she stood there for a moment, drawing a deep breath, trying to summon courage. How am I going to explain this to Grandma? For B. Wakefield, commitment was sacred. Walking away from a marriage would be almost unforgivable. Yet Olivia knew the truth. Staying would slowly destroy her. The street was lined with tidy brick homes and manicured gardens. But B.A.'s garden was always the most radiant, bursting with roses and geraniums, kept alive by a secret oat mixture only she knew. Olivia smiled softly. That garden was a perfect reflection of her grandmother's spirit, discipline, strength, and a generous heart. Dragging her bags up the steps, Olivia felt the weight pressing down not only on her arms but on her soul. The door opened, and there stood B, arms wide. "My darling," B exclaimed, pulling her into a strong embrace. "It feels so good to be back, Grandma." "You will always be welcome here," B assured her, eyes flicking briefly to the suitcases. "Come in, I'll make us some tea. We can talk afterward." In the sitting room, over buttered toast and hot tea, Olivia revealed the essentials: Damian's refusal to have children, his obsession with work, Vivian's constant presence, and how excluded she felt. The more intimate details she kept to herself. "I did the only thing left to me, Grandma. Tell me I was right." Olivia's voice trembled, almost pleading. B listened in silence, neither condemning nor fully approving. "What I would have done doesn't matter, my dear. This is your life." Olivia sighed, frustrated. Sometimes her grandmother's firmness reminded her too much of Damian's. Later in the afternoon, the phone rang. B answered, and Olivia instantly recognized the inevitable name. "No, Damian. She doesn't want to speak with you," B said firmly. Olivia's heart lurched. Of course it was him. Moments later, the doorbell chimed. B returned to the kitchen with her calm composure. That was Damian. "He's in the drawing room." The floor seemed to slip beneath Olivia's feet. She walked in slowly. There he stood, impeccable in a navy suit, wearing the tie she had once given him. His blue eyes, dark with tension, locked onto hers. "You didn't need to come," she murmured. "I wanted to," he answered, voice steady but controlled. "You always do things your way, don't you, Damian?" He drew a breath. "Perhaps, but don't think I ever used you. I wanted you, Olivia. I always have." He stepped closer, pulling her into his arms. "You are mine, you've always been mine." His kisses sent shivers through her, awakening feelings she had tried to bury. But the shadow of Vivian loomed, unshakable. "No, Damian," she whispered, pulling back. "I can't live sharing you with her." His face tightened in anger. "I've told you 1,000 times. There is nothing between Vivian and me except work." "Then prove it." Olivia's voice was firm. "Choose, her or me." The room fell into a heavy silence. Damian raked a hand through his hair, restless. "I won't let you force me into a choice like that." "That is exactly what you'll have to do," Olivia answered, before turning and heading upstairs, leaving him alone. He entered soon after, calm as ever. "Would you care for a cup of tea, Damian?" He shook his head, pacing the room like a caged man. "Your granddaughter is impossible to reason with." B sighed. "Perhaps. But my son, a marriage only survives on loyalty and on clear choices." Damian said nothing. He only nodded stiffly, muttered thanks, and walked out, the door slamming behind him. Left alone in the quiet room, B thought to herself. If only they both found the courage to bend, even a little, perhaps there was still hope. Olivia was not being impulsive. She waited in silence, giving Damian plenty of time to make a decision. The weekend passed. 2 whole days without a word from him. 2 days in which he had surely been with Vivian. Every hour without a sign of Damian felt like a sharp sting to her heart. Deep down, Olivia knew Damian would never let go of his assistant. His promise of giving her a baby had been nothing more than a ploy to lure her back home. Her grandmother, always firm, kept her busy with small tasks, polishing silverware, pulling weeds from the garden, folding laundry. Work helped dull the ache, but nothing could fill the emptiness. On Wednesday, Olivia gathered her courage and picked up the phone. She called Harry Graham. "Is that job offer still open?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Of course it is," he replied kindly. "Come whenever you're ready." Olivia closed her eyes, holding back tears. "I need this, Harry. I need to start over." The next day, she returned to her old television network. Her colleagues welcomed her warmly, and Harry, with that open smile of his, made her feel seen and valued, immersing herself in work. Olivia rediscovered something she thought she had lost: her competence, her confidence. For the first time in months, she didn't think of Damian during her working hours. But at night, alone, the emptiness returned. The vacant bed reminded her just how much she still loved him. On Saturday, a massive bouquet of red roses arrived at her grandmother's house. The card bore only one word: Damian. On Sunday, another dozen. And on Monday, more still. Roses meant love, passion. Yet without a letter, without a single word of explanation, they felt like little more than a reminder. Damian still wanted her, on his terms. He wasn't willing to give up anything. That morning, Olivia made her decision. Not all the roses in the world would bring her back under those conditions. But as she left for work, she saw Damian's car parked outside. Leaning against the door, he was waiting for her. Olivia's heart raced, but she kept her expression firm and walked past him, composed and proud. "Thank you for the flowers, Damian," she murmured. "But I'm late." "Let me drive you," he insisted. "I'll take the bus." Still, he followed her slowly in the car until finally, curiosity getting the better of her, she slipped inside. In the silence of the ride, Damian spoke. "I called Harry. I had to know where you were." Olivia stiffened. His pride had always been unshakable. Now, he sounded vulnerable. "You can't buy me with flowers, Damian. That wasn't my intention. I just wanted for you to reconsider." The effort in his voice was undeniable. For the first time, he seemed to be asking, not commanding. Then, with hesitation, he mentioned his mother's birthday. "I want you to come with me, Olivia, not out of duty, but because I need you there." The words echoed in her heart. Maybe it was only wounded pride. Maybe it was love. But however much it hurt, Olivia knew she still loved him. "All right, Damian," she said softly. "I'll go." That evening, when Harry spoke about how resentment can turn into walls that isolate couples, Olivia understood. Perhaps this birthday party would be their final chance to see if there was still a future for them. That Sunday, Olivia made a decision. She would not argue with Damian on the way to Sophia's estate. She would try to keep calm. At the party, she would play the role of the devoted wife, and that wouldn't be so hard, since, despite everything, she still loved him. She wore the aqua green silk gown, expensive, but one Damian had insisted on buying, black stiletto heels, and the perfume that always left him weak. If she was going to fight for her marriage, she wouldn't set aside a single weapon. When he arrived at her grandmother's house, exactly at 10 o'clock, his eyes swept over her with approval. In their fierce brightness, Olivia recognized the immediate spark of desire. She could still awaken it, and that was intoxicating. In the car, the brief touch of their hands was enough to send a shiver through her. But suddenly Olivia froze. The air inside the car was thick with the scent of Vivian Sandstrom's perfume. "How dare you come to me straight from her house?" she murmured, wounded. Damian exhaled, uneasy. "It was an accident. The bottle broke." "Last night," she pressed. He hesitated, then admitted, "Yes, I took her to dinner." The wound tore open again. Another business meeting or a late-night confidant? Nothing like that. Damian shot back, but the tension in his face betrayed him. The silence that followed was heavy, until he muttered, "I'd do anything to have you back, Olivia. Wanting isn't enough, Damian. What we need is understanding." During the long drive to the estate, her thoughts returned to Harry's words. Without communication, small resentments turn into mountains, and Vivian was the mountain in their path. Taking a steady breath, Olivia ventured. "She didn't spill that perfume by accident. She did it on purpose. So I would notice. Damian, Vivian is in love with you. She's playing a cold, patient game, waiting for the day I'm gone from your life." He looked stunned. "That doesn't make any sense." "It does. And every day you keep her by your side, you give her more room to hope." Damian didn't answer. His silence spoke louder than words. Olivia knew she had planted the seed of doubt in his heart. Soon, the warm lights of Sophia's estate appeared in the distance. The conversation ended. It was time for Olivia to wear the mask of the devoted wife, even if inside she was still battling the shadow of Vivian. When they pulled up to the farm, the house was already full. Cars lined up beneath the giant fig tree showed that Sophia had gathered the entire family for her birthday. As always, Damian was courteous. He opened the door for Olivia, but before she could brace herself to face the family, he surprised her. He pulled her into his arms, touched her cheek, and whispered softly, "Nothing could ever replace you, Olivia." "Nor you, Damian," she whispered back, the words coming straight from her soul. Then their lips met, a kiss urgent and full of longing, one that erased everything else for a few precious moments, until Sophia appeared at the doorway, smiling warmly. "Ah, so that's why you're late," she teased. "Just like your father, Damian, he could never wait when he was in love." Damian blushed, while Olivia only smiled, touched by her mother-in-law's warmth. Sophia embraced her tightly, remembering her own youth, and declared without hesitation, "Damian will make a wonderful father." The word struck deep in Olivia. In that instant, she understood the weight her husband had carried since boyhood, responsibilities of a grown man, when he had only been a child. Perhaps that was why he clung so fiercely to control. The day flowed with laughter, conversations, and family members orbiting around Damian as if he held every answer. To his siblings, he was the leader, the unshakable one. Only Olivia saw the shadow of loneliness hidden behind his strong facade. She remembered her grandmother's question, "Do you care about Damian's needs?" Yes, she did. That was why she played the role of the devoted wife so perfectly, upholding the image he needed before his family. And her reward came in the discreet glances of relief and gratitude Damian cast her way. At the end, Sophia hugged them both, asking for good news soon. Damian replied that they would start a family only when they were ready, but Olivia caught the flicker of shadow in his eyes. He still wasn't ready. Perhaps he never would be. On the way back, the silence finally broke with confession. "Maybe I've never told you how much you mean to me, Olivia, not just for the physical pleasure. In so many ways, you are my reward." Her heart tightened. At last, he was beginning to open up. "I never realized how selfish I was," he continued, voice low and rough. "I always expected you to accept what I wanted. I was furious when you didn't. I was wrong, wasn't I?" "Yes, Damian," she answered, firm but not harsh. He pulled the car onto the shoulder, eyes locking onto hers with burning intensity. "I never want to hurt you, Olivia. I never did. So why did you leave me? Was it only because of Vivian?" She drew a steady breath. It was time to tell the truth. "If you had treated me like a person, not an object, Vivian never would have become such a problem. I could have endured her contempt, but not yours." Damian lowered his gaze, defeated. "Is she still a problem for you?" "What do you think?" "Yes, she still is." There was a pause. Then his voice, almost pleading, "Come back with me, Olivia. Now." She trembled, wanted to surrender, but held her ground. "No, Damian. I'll only return when you make the choice that has to be made." The air between them grew heavy. He started the car again, frustration in every movement. "I won't do something wrong just to please you, but I won't always be around when you decide you need me." The rest of the drive was silent. When they stopped in front of her grandmother's house, he simply murmured, "Thank you for everything." Olivia stepped out quickly. Tears burned in her eyes, but she kept her head high. She knew what he wanted was the easy way, to keep both women in his life. But she would never accept sharing the place that was rightfully hers. Back at her grandmother's house, Olivia had barely settled when the phone rang. It was Damian. "I'd like to take you to dinner tomorrow. I promise I won't pressure you. I just want to be with you. Will you come?" "Yes," Olivia replied, without thinking. Her heart raced. Could this mean that Damian was finally willing to change? B, calm as always, gave her a knowing smile. Perhaps he wanted to show you he's not giving up so easily. And she was right. For several nights in a row, Damian took Olivia out. Not business dinners. Personal ones. He brought her to the finest restaurants, spoke about his projects, asked about her work with Harry. He was attentive, respectful, even charming. At the end of each evening, he asked for nothing more than a gentle goodbye. Olivia saw a different man, almost the one she had fallen in love with before the wedding. But one shadow still lingered, Vivian Sandstrom. Does she still work with you? Olivia asked one night. Yes, Vivian still works with me, he replied, emphasizing each word. Days later, Damian looked her in the eyes and admitted, I regret ever sharing our problems with her. I'll never do it again, Olivia. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to throw herself into his arms and erase the ghost that haunted them both. But something bigger was about to change everything. Her last pills were gone, and her period never came. Olivia tried to convince herself it was stress. But finally, she took the test. Positive. She was pregnant. The joy she had always dreamed of turned quickly into fear. She didn't know how Damian would react. He had told his mother he wasn't ready for children. What if he thought she had tricked him? What if he believed she had decided on her own? But the baby was real, and sooner or later, she would have to tell him. At the TV studio, she ran into Egon Jorgensen again. Harry had asked her to join them for a business lunch. Jorgensen's admiring glance made her uneasy, but Olivia kept a composure. Then Damian walked in, and he wasn't alone. Vivian was right beside him. Olivia's heart skipped. She forced a polite smile and greeted him from across the room. Damian looked surprised and discreetly relieved. Vivian, however, remained poised, acting as if Olivia didn't exist. When he finally approached the table, Damian called her darling in front of everyone. A clear message. She was still his wife. That night, Olivia made her choice. She would pack her bags and return home. Not because Damian had asked her, but because she wanted to. Damian arrived right on time. When he saw the packed bags on the porch, his composure broke. They embraced, their kisses urgent, their hands clinging. Do we really have to go out to dinner? He murmured between kisses. Maybe we can cook something here instead, she whispered. Back home, for the first time in so long, Olivia felt truly wanted. The house is empty without you, Damian said, his eyes locked on hers. They went upstairs. This time, there was no rush, no possession. It was love. His touch was gentle, as though rediscovering her piece by piece. Olivia surrendered, overjoyed to be home again. Afterward, in the quiet of the bedroom, she gathered her courage. Damian, I'm pregnant. He froze. The air itself seemed to stop. No joy, no smile, only silence. Olivia stood, nervous. I'll let you think, while I make us something to eat. When did it happen? He asked at last. She hesitated. The morning after the party. I forgot the pill. Damian's face went pale. Vivian told me you'd been with Jorgensen. The name hit like a knife. Vivian, Olivia cried, wounded to the core. He believed her. He believed her. It's your child, she whispered through tears, before running out of the room. Her steps faltered on the stairs. Damian's voice shouted behind her, and then came the fall. The impact, darkness, and silence. Damian rushed down the stairs in panic. Olivia, Olivia. His heart pounded as he saw her lie on the floor, pale, motionless, with trembling hands. He lifted her carefully, calling her name as if his voice alone could bring her back. I don't want to lose my baby, Olivia whispered before fainting. Our baby, Olivia. Ours. Damian's voice broke with pain. He wrapped her in blankets, begging her to open her eyes. And for the first time since childhood, tears ran down his face. The fear of losing Olivia and their child crushed his pride. Hours later in the hospital, Olivia opened her eyes. The baby's safe, Olivia. Everything's fine, Damian whispered, exhausted, his beard unshaven, his eyes red with tears. You just need to rest. She touched her belly, relief flooding her. I was never with another man, Damian. Only you. He gripped her hand tightly. I love you, Olivia. I need you and our baby. I'll never doubt you again. Never. Damian's tears were proof that something inside him had changed. At last, he revealed what pride had always kept hidden, a deep love. "Forgive me," he murmured. "I'll love you forever," Olivia whispered. Then Damian confessed. Vivian resigned. "I accepted. Yesterday. She will never interfere between us again. You were right all along." Olivia smiled through her tears. For the first time, she felt he had truly chosen her above everything. "And the baby?" She hesitated. "You never wanted to talk about children." "I want this, Olivia. I always did. I was just afraid your life would become as heavy as my mother's once was. But I'll take care of you. I'll take care of our child." The look in his eyes was no longer one of desire alone, but of true, enduring love. 10 months later, on a sunny Sunday, little David James Carlton was baptized. Olivia and Damian's home was filled with flowers, laughter, and family. Sophia cradled her grandson with tears in her eyes. "He looks exactly like Damian." "No, Mother," Damian corrected proudly. "He looks exactly like Olivia." Life had transformed. The accident, the pain, the tears, they had only made the couple stronger. Now, united by the birth of their child, nothing could break them apart. Harry, invited to the celebration, brought flowers for Olivia and was greeted not only with her gratitude, but also with the unexpected smile of Teresa, Damian's widowed sister. Fate, quietly, was setting other hearts in motion, and B. Wakefield, with her sharp humor, rocked the baby in her arms and whispered to Olivia, "Your grandfather was the devil himself in bed." Olivia flushed bright red. Later, as we kept little David entertained, Damian leaned close to Olivia's ear. "Do you think anyone would notice if we disappeared for 20 minutes? Olivia smiled, her eyes shining. "Grandma wouldn't say a word, and I'd love to be seduced by you." He pulled her close, his embrace strong and certain. "I love you, Olivia, for all eternity." And this time, Olivia knew their love had truly won.